Have you ever wondered why you're in a certain place at a certain time? What if it's for a reason bigger than you imagine? This is the story of Esther, an ordinary girl who became queen, risked everything, and saved her people. And it all started in the grand palace of Persia. In the mighty kingdom of Persia, King Xerxes ruled over a vast land with power and pride. One day, after a disagreement with Queen Vashti, he decided to choose a new queen, one more obedient to the king's wishes. A search went out across the empire, and among the young women brought to the palace was a Jewish girl named Esther. She lived in the city of Susa with her cousin Mordecai, who had raised her like a daughter after her parents died. Esther was beautiful, but more importantly, she was kind, wise, and full of grace. She listened to Mordecai's advice and kept her Jewish identity a secret, just as he had told her. In time, King Xerxes chose Esther to be his new queen. She wore a crown, but she never forgot where she came from or who she truly was. Now, around this time, the king promoted a man named Haman to the highest position in his court. Haman was proud and power-hungry. He demanded that everyone bow down to him. But Mordecai wouldn't. He would only bow to God. Haman was furious. When he learned that Mordecai was Jewish, he came up with a wicked plan, not just to punish Mordecai, but to destroy all the Jewish people in the kingdom. He tricked King Xerxes into signing a law. On a certain day, everyone in Persia could attack the Jews. The law could not be changed. Fear spread across the land. Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and wept outside the palace gate. He sent word to Esther, urging her to go to the king and beg for mercy. But there was a problem. No one could approach the king without being invited. If Esther went uninvited, she could be killed. Esther was scared, but Mordecai sent her a powerful message. If you keep silent, help will come from somewhere else. But who knows? Maybe you were made queen for such a time as this. Those words changed everything. Esther asked Mordecai and all the Jews to fast for 3 days. She would fast too. Then, with courage in her heart, she put on her royal robes and walked into the king's court. Uninvited, the room fell silent. The king looked up and smiled. He held out his golden scepter. Esther was safe. Instead of blurting out the problem, Esther invited the king and Haman to a special banquet. At the meal, she didn't reveal her request. She invited them again for dinner the next day. Haman, full of pride, bragged to his family about his invitation to dine with the king and queen. But when he saw Mordecai again and Mordecai still didn't bow, his anger burned even hotter. He built a tall gallows, planning to have Mordecai hang the next morning. But that night, the king couldn't sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read aloud, and he was reminded of a time when Mordecai had uncovered a plot to kill the king. Mordecai had never been rewarded. So the next morning, Haman walked into the palace ready to ask for Mordecai's death. But before he could speak, the king said, "What should be done for the man the king wants to honor?" Haman, thinking the king meant him, described a grand celebration, royal robes, a parade through the city, praise for all to hear. The king said, "Perfect. Do that for Mordecai." Haman was humiliated. That evening at the second banquet, the king asked Esther again, "What is your request? Even up to half my kingdom, it's yours." Esther took a deep breath and spoke, "If I have found favor with you, spare my life and the lives of my people. We have been sold to be destroyed." The king was shocked. Who would do such a thing? Esther turned to Haman, "This evil man, our enemy." The room exploded with anger. Haman begged for his life, but the king ordered that he be taken away. And in a twist of justice, Haman was hanged on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. Mordecai was honored. Esther was praised. But the law allowing the Jews to be attacked could not be undone. So the king made a new law. The Jews could defend themselves. When the day came, God gave the Jewish people victory. They were saved. To remember the great rescue, the people celebrated with gourmet gifts and feasting. They called the celebration Purim, a day to remember how God turned sorrow into gladness. Esther could have stayed quiet. She could have hidden, but instead she stepped forward in faith, even when it was scary. She wasn't powerful on her own, but God had placed her in the right place at the right time for a reason. Just like Esther, you might be right where you are for such a time as this. When we trust God and stand up for what's right, we can make a difference, no matter who we are.